This is Nancy Leader on the Zeta Report.
On March 8, 2014, Malaysia airliner 370 disappeared from radar and stopped communicating via ACARS, its automatic satellite reporting system, and without a word from the cockpit, disappeared while over the water between the Malay Peninsula and the tip of Vietnam. The disappearance from civilian radar was caused by the loss of the transponder, an electronic device allowing airliners to be tracked. Malaysia 370 was then located by military radar, having inexplicably turned left from a heading of 024 to a heading of 333. ACARS had sent its last update on 1:07 a.m., the next expected at 1:37 a.m. All appeared to be well. At 1:19, a good night was issued from the cockpit as the plane was transferring from Malaysia Air to Vietnam Air. At 1:21, the transponder went dead. The turn to the left occurred just after the transponder went dead. While Malaysia and the airline industry in general was trying to demonize the pilot, putting the blame on the pilot's suicide or a terrorist takeover, the obvious answer was right in the Boeing 777 manual. If the cabin decompresses or oxygen is not available, the autopilot automatically turns to the left and drops in altitude to 15,000 feet. Loss of electronics in the 777 would shut off the compressors that bring oxygen into the plane, and as the plane was climbing at the time of the electromagnetic pulse, an electric surge forcing a faster climb would likely have occurred too. Both reasons for the autopilot to go into a left turn and into a descent mode. This would explain the radar readings that the plane climbed to 45,000 feet, then dropped in altitude to 12,000 feet, and various radar readings in between. Malaysia 370 then inexplicably turned left again, heading into the Indian Ocean off Australia until it ran out of fuel. Did the autopilot response from one of the 4 computers on board a 777 capable of running the autopilot click in more than once? A zombie plane, all on board dead from lack of oxygen, flying by the vestiges of a tenacious autopilot. Just 2 weeks later, on March 24th, another Malaysian airliner also had electrical problems while on the same path as Malaysia 370, this time heading to South Korea. Malaysia 66 passengers reported a crackling noise and weird noises from the engine just before the cabin went dark as the main generator conked out. The plane limped into Hong Kong on a reserve generator, the passengers in life jackets, sitting in the dark, told to get ready for a crash landing into the water. Sound familiar? Same location, same path, electrical disruption. If the second incident of an electrical outage on a plane flying from the Malay Peninsula to the tip of Vietnam barely got a mention, the similarity of these incidents to Air France 447 in 2009 also got scant news coverage. Here, the automatic reporting mechanism stayed alive long enough to describe the electronic death on the plane, and I quote, "A succession of a dozen technical messages showed that several electrical systems had broken down, most ominously the pressurized system, a totally unprecedented situation in the plane." So what happened to these planes? The Zetas explain. Man is aware of electromagnetic pulse using surge protectors on sensitive electronics, static from solar radiation, or blackouts and brownouts from electronic surge or fade on malfunctioning grids. But the sun during these plane disasters was virtually asleep. Where did the electromagnetic pulse come from? We generate electricity from the fact that electrons and magnetons like to run together, taking the same route. Thus our huge generators with a magnet at the core, converting motion into electricity, and our small appliances that convert electricity to motion. The magnetic field of Planet X, clashing with the Earth, could be a factor. The Zetas state that our knowledge of subatomic particles is infantile, that we are aware of only 1 out of 1,000 such particles they, the Zetas, are aware of. There are some 387 discrete subatomic particles composing what man understands to be the flow of electrons or a magnetic field. These are not visible, but are how a bolt of lightning knows the path it should take. Mankind is aware that electricity also likes to ground in water, such that being on a boat or near plumbing is unsafe during an electrical storm. The region where Malaysia Flight 370 and Flight 66 crossed are both over shallow water and over the bending Sunda Plate. Air Force 447 was also over water. The Zetas have described the plate movements occurring today as first starting with a sinking of the Sunda Plate, which holds Indonesia and Malaysia. As the Indo-Australia Plate lifts on its eastern edge, the Sunda Plate is pushed down and under Java and Sumatra. This is in process. The rock is under a squeezing stress. Pets are known to flee home prior to an earthquake, and radiostatic is evident too near the epicenter. This is caused by what the Zetas call an electronic screech, where pressure on the rock squeezes out air pockets, so water in the rock is a continuous conduit. Add the electronic screech through the shallow water on the bending Sunda Plate, and top this off with clashing magnetic fields between the Earth and Planet X, and you have an electromagnetic pulse sufficient to take down an airliner. This will happen again. Per the Zetas, an analysis of what regions are under a rock squeeze due to the 7 of 10 plate movements, and likewise have shallow water, can be a guide for avoiding future EMP on airliners. In addition to the Sunda Plate region, they advise against flights over the Caribbean Plate and Central America. Inland, along the St. Lawrence Seaway, the shallow waters of the Sea of Japan, East China Sea, and Sea of Okhotsk are also vulnerable, as are the southern Caspian Sea and coastline of Israel.
Until next time on the Zeta Report, I'm Nancy Leader.